What does Ruby have that Python doesn't, and vice versa? There is a lot of discussions of Python versus Ruby, and I all find them completely unhelpful, because they all turn around why feature X sucks in language Y, or that claim language Y doesn't have X, although in fact it does. I also know exactly why I prefer Python, but that's also subjective, and wouldn't help anybody choosing, as they might not have the same taste in development as I do. It would therefore be interesting to list the differences, objectively. So no, Python's lambdas sucks. Instead, explain what Ruby's lambdas can do that Python's can't. No subjectivity. Example code is good. Don't have several differences in one answer, please. And vote up the ones you know are correct, and down those you know are incorrect, or are subjective. Also, differences in syntax is not interesting. We know Python does with indentation what Ruby does with brackets and ends, and that is called self in Python. Update: this is now a community wiki, so we can add the big differences here. Ruby has a class reference in the class body. In Ruby you have a reference to the class, self, already in the class body. In Python you don't have a reference to the class until after the class construction is finished. An example. Self in this case is the class, and this code would print out caca. There is no way to print out the class name or in other ways access the class from the class definition body in Python, outside method definitions. All classes are mutable in Ruby. This lets you develop extensions to core classes. Here's an example of a Rails extension. Python, imagine there were no dot starts with method. You could use it on any sequence, not just strings. In order to use it you should import it explicitly, for example, from some underscore module import starts underscore with. Ruby has Perl-like scripting features. Ruby has first class regex, $variables, the awk/Perl line-by-line input loop and other features that make it more suited to writing small shell scripts that munch text files or act as glue code for other programs. Ruby has first class continuations. Thanks to the calc statement. In Python you can create continuations by various techniques, but there is no support built into the language. Ruby has blocks. With the do statement you can create a multi-line anonymous function in Ruby, which will be passed in as an argument into the method in front of do, and called from there. In Python you would instead do this either by passing a method or with generators. Ruby. Python, Ruby blocks correspond to different constructs in Python. Or Interestingly, the convenience statement in Ruby for calling a block is called yield, which in Python will create a generator. Ruby. Python. Although the principles are different, the result is strikingly similar. Ruby supports functional style, pipe-like, programming more easily. Python. Python has built-in generators, which are used like Ruby blocks, as noted above. Python has support for generators in the language. In Ruby 1.8 you can use the generator module, which uses continuations to create a generator from a block. Or, You could just use a block/proc/lambda. Moreover, in Ruby 1.9 fibers are, and can be used as, generators, and the enumerator class is a built-in generator for. Docs.python.org has this generator example. Contrast this with the above block examples. Python has flexible namespace handling. In Ruby, when you import a file with require, all the things defined in that file will end up in your global namespace. This causes namespace pollution. The solution to that is Ruby's modules. But if you create a namespace with a module, then you have to use that namespace to access the contained classes. In Python, the file is a module, and you can import its contained names with from the module import, thereby polluting the namespace if you want. But you can also import just selected names with from the module import enami, another, or you can simply import the module and then access the names with the module.enami. If you want more levels in your namespace, you can have packages, which are directories with modules and an _init_.py file. Python has docstrings. Docstrings are strings that are attached to modules, functions and methods and can be introspected at runtime. This helps for creating such things as the help command and automatic documentation. Ruby's equivalent are similar to Java docs, and located above the method instead of within it. They can be retrieved at runtime from the files by using 1.9s method #source_location example used. Python has multiple inheritance. Ruby does not, on purpose. See Ruby's website, see here how it's done in Ruby. It does reuse the module concept as a type of abstract classes. Python has list/dict comprehensions. Python. Ruby. Python. Ruby. Python 2.7 Plus. Ruby. Python has decorators. Things similar to decorators can also be created in Ruby, and it can also be argued that they aren't as necessary as in Python. Syntax differences. Ruby requires and/or to close all of its scopes, while Python uses white space only. There have been recent attempts in Ruby to allow for white space only indentation, this URL.
Ruby has the concepts of blocks, which are essentially syntactic sugar around a section of code. They are a way to create closures and pass them to another method which may or may not use the block. A block can be invoked later on through a yield statement. For example, a simple definition of an each method on array might be something like then you can invoke this like so. Python has anonymous functions /closures/lambdas, but it doesn't quite have blocks since it's missing some of the useful syntactic sugar. However, there's at least one way to get it in an ad hoc fashion. See, for example, here.
Python example. Functions are first-class variables in Python. You can declare a function, pass it around as an object, and override it. This is a fundamental feature of modern scripting languages. JavaScript and Lua do this, too. Ruby doesn't treat functions this way, naming a function calls it. Of course, there are ways to do these things in Ruby, but they're not first-class operations. For example, you can wrap a function with proc.new to treat it as a variable, but then it's no longer a function, it's an object with a call method. Ruby's functions aren't first-class objects. Ruby functions aren't first-class objects. Functions must be wrapped in an object to pass them around. The resulting object can't be treated like a function. Functions can't be assigned in a first-class manner. Instead, a function and its container object must be called to modify them.
Ultimately, all answers are going to be subjective at some level, and the answers posted so far pretty much prove that you can't point to any one feature that isn't doable in the other language in an equally nice, if not similar, way, since both languages are very concise and expressive. I like Python's syntax. However, you have to dig a bit deeper than syntax to find the true beauty of Ruby. There is Zen-like beauty in Ruby's consistency. While no trivial example can possibly explain this completely, I'll try to come up with one here just to explain what I mean. Reverse the words in this string. When you think about how you would do it, you'd do the following. Split the sentence up into words, reverse the words, rejoin the words back into a string. In Ruby, you'd do this. Exactly as you think about it, in the same sequence, one method call after another. In Python, it would look more like this. It's not hard to understand, but it doesn't quite have the same flow. The subject, sentence, is buried in the middle. The operations are a mix of functions and object methods. This is a trivial example, but one discovers many different examples when really working with and understanding Ruby, especially on non-trivial tasks.
If you want to see more, please